There's an ancient secret that separates those who merely learn from those who truly master. And today, you'll discover why most people never move past the beginner phase, no matter how hard they try. Have you ever noticed how some individuals seem to master anything they touch? They learn to play an instrument in months, speak a new language fluently in a year, or build businesses from the ground up, while others spend years just trying to figure out where to start. And do you know what most people say about them? They're just gifted. He was born with a talent for this. You've probably heard these lines before, maybe even told yourself the same thing. But here's the truth. That's the biggest lie you can ever believe. What separates those who master from those who quit has nothing to do with talent or luck. It's something far deeper. Something you were never taught in school, university, or any course you've ever purchased online. Centuries ago, in feudal Japan, there existed a system of apprenticeship so powerful it could transform an ordinary farmer into an undefeated warrior, and turn a simple craftsman into a master whose creations would last for generations. This system wasn't about intelligence or natural ability. It was about understanding the 3 invisible stages that every master must pass through. The samurai called it Shuhari. And when you finally understand how it works, you'll stop being that person who starts 1,000 things and finishes none. You'll become someone who can master anything on command. But there's a catch. Learning this system will force you to confront something your ego will resist more than anything else. Before I show you the full method, I invite you to subscribe to Discipline Dojo, like this video, and tell me in the comments, what's the one skill you truly want to master? Guitar? Programming? A new language? I read every comment personally. Now let's continue. Chapter 1. The Lost Apprentice. The story I'm about to tell you took place in feudal Japan. A young man named Yamato had one consuming dream, to become a samurai. He wasn't born into a samurai family. He had no lineage, no wealth, no name, only a fire inside him that refused to die. While other boys from his village accepted their fates as farmers and merchants, Yamato spent hours watching the samurai ride by on the dusty road. Their posture, their silent discipline, the quiet power they carried, it captivated him. He didn't just admire them, he craved that life. At 16, Yamato picked up a wooden sword and began training alone. Every morning before sunrise, he practiced what he'd seen. Horizontal strikes, vertical slashes, thrusts, over and over again. Hours turned into months. 6 months later, nothing had changed. His sword still felt heavy. His movements were stiff. The more he trained, the worse he seemed to get. Frustrated, he turned to knowledge. He read old manuscripts about legendary battles. He memorized the names of classical techniques. He studied Bushido, the samurai code of honor. His mind was full of theory. But when he picked up his sword, it all disappeared. A whole year passed. He was still just a village boy, pretending to be a warrior. Until one afternoon, everything changed. Chapter 2. The Meeting. Yamato was practicing near the edge of the forest when a deep voice broke the silence. Your feet are wrong. Your posture is wrong. Your breathing is wrong. Everything you're doing is wrong. He turned around and froze. Behind him stood an older man, grey hair tied back, weathered skin marked with scars, 2 swords hanging from his belt. A true samurai. Shame washed over Yamato. I'm trying to learn on my own, sir. I have no master. The samurai circled him slowly, observing every detail. "How long have you been training?" "1 year, sir." "And have you improved?" Yamato stayed silent. The answer was obvious. The samurai took the wooden sword from his hand and looked at it for a moment. "You know your problem? You think you're training, but what you're really doing is perfecting your mistakes. Every failed repetition is teaching your body how to fail better." Those words cut deeper than any blade. A whole year of effort, and all he had done was train himself to fail. "Then, how do I do it right?" Yamato asked, voice trembling. "I've read every book, memorized every move, studied every strategy." The samurai interrupted sharply. "And that's exactly why you're failing. You're trying to build a castle starting from the roof. You studied strategy before mastering posture. You tried to innovate before learning to imitate. You skipped the only thing that matters. The path." He stepped closer and looked Yamato directly in the eyes. "There is a path to mastery that has 3 stages. You must walk through each one. You cannot skip. You cannot rush. If you try, you'll spend your entire life being mediocre at everything." "And what path is that?" Yamato asked softly. "Shuhari," the samurai replied. "Shu, obey. Ha, break. Ri, transcend. 3 stages, 1 destination. True mastery." Yamato's heart pounded. "Please teach me," he said. The samurai was silent for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Meet me here at dawn. Prepare yourself, because the first stage will destroy everything you think you know about learning." Chapter 3. Shu, the death of the ego. The next morning, Yamato was waiting at the clearing before sunrise. The master appeared, calm and silent. "Today begins Shu," he said. "At this stage you do not think. You do not question. You do not improvise. You obey. You copy exactly what I show you. No deviation. Not even an inch." He assumed a stance. "Stay like this." Yamato imitated. The master adjusted his foot 2 centimeters to the left, tilted his hip slightly, and raised his shoulder a fraction. "Now breathe. 3 seconds in through the nose. 2 seconds hold. 4 seconds out through the mouth." They stood that way for 10 minutes, just breathing. Yamato's legs trembled. His mind screamed that this was a waste of time. "Master," he finally muttered, "when will we begin real training?" The samurai turned his head slowly. "You think posture is boring? You think breathing is a waste of time? That's why you'll never become a samurai. Mastery is built in millimeters, not miles." Yamato said nothing. "Shu is not meant to be exciting," the master continued. "It's meant to kill your ego, to teach your body what your mind cannot yet grasp. Every movement you'll ever learn depends on this posture, this breathing, these fundamentals you find so dull." Weeks passed. Breathing, posture, basic movements, again and again. No duels, no flashy techniques, just repetition. Every day, Yamato's mind fought back. "This is too slow. I should be learning real swordsmanship." But something unseen was happening. His movements began to feel natural. The posture that once burned now felt effortless. The breathing that once needed control now happened on its own. 3 months later, the master demonstrated a simple horizontal strike. "1,000 times," he said. "Exactly as I do. Not faster, not slower." Identical Yamato practiced from dawn to dusk, 1,000 repetitions every day. On the fourth day, something miraculous occurred. During strike number 400, his body moved perfectly, fluidly, without thought. It was as if the sword had learned on its own. The master, watching from a distance, nodded. "Did you feel it?" Yamato swallowed and nodded. "Yes. This is Shu," the master said, "when the technique sinks so deeply into your being that the mind no longer needs to interfere. Most never reach this point, because they think repetition is for the foolish. They think they're too smart for the basics." He paused, then added quietly, "But repetition is the bridge between knowledge and instinct." A neuroscientist from the University of Tokyo, who studied motor learning for 18 years, discovered something remarkable. When you repeat a specific movement 300 to 500 times, neurons in the cerebellum begin forming an automatic pattern. After 1,000 correct repetitions, that pattern becomes unconscious. The skill literally migrates from the conscious mind to the automatic brain system. But if you change the movement before those 300 repetitions, the pattern never forms. You remain trapped in conscious mode, slow, draining, and full of error. And that's the truth of Shu. Before you can break the rules, you must first become the rule. Chapter 4. The Eternal Student Trap. 6 months of Shu had passed. By now, Yamato had mastered 12 fundamental techniques so deeply that he could perform them even in his sleep. One night, his master woke him abruptly and commanded, "Strike!" Half awake, Yamato lifted his wooden sword and executed a flawless vertical cut, perfectly balanced, perfectly timed. But something began to trouble him. He noticed that other warriors, men with more years of training and far more techniques, fought worse than he did. They could name every kata, recite every master's teaching, yet when real combat came, their strikes lacked spirit. One morning, Yamato finally asked, "Master, why do some warriors know hundreds of techniques, but still fight worse than I, who know only 12? For the first time in months, the samurai smiled. "Finally, you've asked the right question. These men," the master said, "live in what I call the eternal student's hell. They collect techniques the way children collect toys, learning new things before mastering the old. They study 1,000 strategies, but internalize none. They confuse knowledge with mastery." He picked up a stick and drew a winding path in the dirt. "Knowledge is having the map," he said. "Mastery is having walked the territory so many times that you no longer need the map." He turned back to Yamato. "Shu gave you the foundation. You obeyed without resistance, without question. Now," the master paused, "you are ready for the next stage, the one that will test everything you've built." "Break what?" Yamato asked, confused. "Everything I taught you," the samurai replied. Chapter 5. Ha! The Dangerous Liberation. "In Shu, you became a perfect reflection of me," the master said. "You did what I did, exactly as I did it. That gave you structure. But if you stop here, you'll never become a warrior. Only a shadow of your teacher." He drew a circle in the dirt. "This circle is Shu. These are the limits I placed on you. Now begins Ha, the stage where you break the circle." Yamato listened carefully as the master continued. "But beware, most mistake Ha for rebellion. They break limits not because they've mastered them, but because they were too lazy to do so. Ha is not rejection. It is evolution, understanding the why behind each rule so deeply that you can now bend it without losing its essence. That afternoon, for the first time in 6 months, the master brought another instructor to the clearing, a samurai from a completely different school. "This man," the master said, "will train you as well. His philosophy, his posture, his entire style contradicts mine. But this is how you grow." Yamato frowned. "If I learn a different style, won't it destroy everything you've taught me? If your shu was shallow, yes, it would," the samurai said. "But yours is complete. That means you are ready. When shu is deep, contradiction becomes wisdom. You begin to see the universal principles that live beneath all styles." And so, Yamato began his Ha training. Mornings with his original master, afternoons with the new instructor. The contrast was extreme. The first taught low stances, minimal movement, patient precision. The second demanded high posture, explosive speed, relentless attack. Every motion, every belief clashed. At first, Yamato's mind couldn't handle the shift. His body moved awkwardly, his thoughts tangled. But after 3 months, something changed. He began to notice that both masters, despite their differences, were teaching the same invisible truths: how to direct energy efficiently, how to read the opponent, how to remain calm in chaos. "The techniques differ," the master said one morning, "but the principles are eternal." That realization lit a fire in Yamato. He began to combine lessons from both worlds. During a training session, he blocked an attack using the first master's grounded stance and countered instantly with the second's explosive strike. The move was seamless, instinctive, beautiful. When he stopped, both masters were staring at him. "What was that?" the second asked. I don't know," Yamato said softly. "It just felt right." The masters exchanged a knowing glance. "Ha is complete," the first declared. "You no longer follow blindly, but neither do you rebel. You adapt, with wisdom. You now understand the why." But then, the master's tone grew serious. And this is where almost everyone stops. 99% of practitioners never go beyond this stage. They reach Ha, learn to adapt, and believe they've become masters. He looked Yamato dead in the eye. They can combine techniques, create variations, invent their own forms, and they're proud of it. But pride is a silent prison. It may look like freedom, but it's still a cage. You're still bound by the techniques you know, even when you rearrange them. Yamato listened, confused. "What comes after Ha, master?" The samurai drew another circle, then erased it completely with his hand. "The final stage," he said quietly, "is Ri, where all boundaries vanish. The stage where the warrior forgets everything." Yamato's eyes widened. "Forget everything?" The master nodded. "Yes. Ri is not about learning more. It's about letting go of everything you once thought was essential. Only then can you act without effort, the way nature moves, the way lightning strikes, the way a river flows." He turned away. "Few ever reach it, because to forget everything, you must first become everything." Chapter 6. Ri, the silent transcendence. "Ri," the master began, "is the stage where you no longer use techniques. The techniques use you. Or rather, there are no techniques anymore. Only pure, effortless response to the moment." Yamato frowned. How can I fight without techniques? The master smiled faintly. You'll understand. But first, let me tell you a story. When I was young, like you, I spent 40 years studying the sword. I learned 300 techniques and mastered 12 distinct schools of combat. My name spread across provinces. I was called one of the best swordsmen of my generation. One day an old man appeared, easily 80 years old. His steps were slow, his back bent, yet his eyes were calm and sharp. He challenged me to a duel. I accepted, thinking it would be quick and polite. The master paused, his expression distant. He defeated me in 3 moves. What confused me most, he continued, was that I couldn't recognize a single technique he used. It wasn't style A, B, or C. It was nothing, and everything, as I said. Time. Like water, formless, yet perfectly fitting each moment. The old master had told him, "Young man, you fight well. You know many techniques, but you are still fighting. I no longer fight. I only respond. When you attack, my body already knows the answer before my mind can think. There is no decision, no technique, just pure movement." Yamato was silent. Then how do I reach that stage? Time, the master said. Practice. And most importantly, stop trying. The next 5 years were the most frustrating of Yamato's life. His master no longer taught him new moves. Instead, he made Yamato fight, every day, against opponents of all kinds, different styles, different skill levels, different temperaments. At first, Yamato's mind was full of thought. Now I'll use my first master's block. Now I'll counter with the second master's strike. Every motion was categorized, analyzed, chosen. But over time, something inside him began to dissolve. The names of techniques faded. The thoughts before movement disappeared. He stopped thinking. Now I do technique equal. He simply acted. One day, during an intense match against 3 opponents, something inside him broke, or perhaps opened. He didn't remember deciding anything. His body just moved, blocking, striking, spinning, evading, all without a single conscious thought. When the fight ended, all 3 men were down. Yamato stood calm, steady, breathing naturally. He couldn't recall which moves he had used. His master, watching from afar, smiled. "You finally stopped fighting," he said. Yamato looked puzzled. "But I fought 3 people." "No," the master replied softly. "Your body responded." There was no you deciding in there, only pure response. This is our I. You've gone beyond the techniques. They're now part of you, so deeply that you don't even realize they exist. Modern neuroscience would later confirm what the master already knew. A researcher at Kyoto University, studying embodied cognition for over 2 decades, discovered that when experts reach the highest levels of mastery, brain activity in the prefrontal cortex, the center of conscious decision-making, drops dramatically. At the same time, older brain structures take control. The expert no longer does the skill. The skill expresses itself through them. It's as if the person and the craft have become one and the same. Chapter 7. The Nameless Master. Years passed. Yamato was no longer the village boy with a wooden sword and impossible dreams. He was now a respected samurai, but more than that, a true master. Young men traveled from distant provinces to train under him. They all asked the same question. "Master, how many techniques do you know?" Yamato always smiled and answered, "None, and all." This confused his students. They wanted lists, lessons, structure. They wanted to count how many moves they'd learn in a month. But Yamato had learned what few ever understand. Techniques are just fingers pointing to the moon. Most people stare so hard at the finger that they forget to look at the moon itself. One day, a proud young warrior challenged him. "Master," he said, "with respect, you claim to know no techniques, but my instructor knows 500. How can you be greater than him?" Yamato picked up a wooden sword. "Then attack me with any of his 500 techniques." The young man stepped forward and unleashed his strongest move, a complex strike he had practiced for years. Yamato didn't seem to move much at all. Just a subtle shift of stance, a slight tilt of the blade, and the young man's sword flew from his hands. He landed on the ground, stunned. Yamato helped him to his feet. "You used a technique," he said gently. "A specific move you've drilled 1,000 times. It's good. It works in many situations. But I didn't use any technique against you. My body simply responded to this moment in the only way it required." He pointed to the fallen sword. "What I did wasn't technique A, B, or C. It was the perfect response to this unique instant, one that has never existed before and will never exist again." He stepped back and looked at the student. "That is the difference between knowing 500 techniques and having none. You are limited to the 500 options you remember. I have infinite options. Because I am not choosing. I am simply being." The young man bowed deeply, understanding for the first time what mastery truly meant. And so Yamato, once the village dreamer with no name, became the nameless master, the one who fought without fighting, who taught without teaching, and who lived in perfect harmony with the moment. Chapter 8. The Universal Way. Yamato's story isn't just about swords or samurai. It's about anything you want to master in life. Do you want to learn guitar? Then Shuhari is your path. Shu. You copy songs note for note, exactly as they were recorded. No improvisation. No flair. Just pure imitation until the movements live in your fingers and your breathing syncs with the rhythm. Ha! You begin to mix elements from different songs to see the principles behind the melodies. Music theory begins to make sense. Ri. The day comes when you no longer play the guitar. You become the guitar. The music flows through you effortlessly. Want to master programming? The same pattern applies. Shu. Copy code from experienced developers line by line. Don't rush to innovate. Just absorb patterns and logic until they're second nature. Ha! Start understanding the why behind the structures. Combine different frameworks, refine them, adapt them. Ri. One day, your fingers move faster than your thoughts. You stop writing code consciously. You see the problem, and your hands already type the solution. Language disappears. Logic remains. Want to build a business? The same truth applies. Shu. Study models that already work. Follow frameworks that have stood the test of time. Ah. Adapt them to your vision, your market, your audience. You begin to see universal business principles that apply anywhere. Ri. You stop following models entirely. You sense the pulse of the market before numbers can even show it. Strategy becomes instinct. The path is always the same. Shuhari isn't just a Japanese philosophy. It's the blueprint of mastery itself. every true craftsman, warrior, artist, or leader follows it, whether they know it or not. But here's what no one tells you about Shuhari. The reason most people never reach mastery in anything. Chapter 9. The Trap of the Modern Generation. The burning truth is this: most people today will never experience mastery because they refuse to go through Shu. Think about it. How often have you heard someone say, "I don't like following rules. I prefer to find my own way. I'm more creative when I do it my way." Sounds noble, right? Like independence, like originality. But it's a lie. A comforting lie your ego tells you to avoid discomfort. You don't truly want to find your own way. You just want to avoid the humility and repetition required to learn the right way first. Yamato could have said the same thing. "Master, why must I copy you exactly? Why can't I form my own style?" If he had, he would have remained just another villager, convinced he was unique while knowing nothing. That's the modern trap. We've been sold a toxic lie, that skipping fundamentals is creativity, that following a master is weakness, and that copying means a lack of originality. The result? A generation that knows a little about everything, and nothing about anything. People who start 47 hobbies and master none. People who say, "I tried guitar, but it wasn't for me," when in truth, they simply couldn't endure the boredom of Shu. Let me be brutally honest. No storytelling, no sugarcoating to fool. Just truth. The reason you haven't mastered that skill you dream about isn't talent, time, or resources. It's because you tried to start at Ha or Ri without completing Shu. You want mastery without paying the price of repetition. You want to play like a virtuoso, but not spend 6 months practicing scales. You want to code like a pro, but not copy others' code for a year. You want an 8-figure business, but not spend 2 years dissecting models that already work. You want to skip Shu because it's boring, because it's humbling, because it hurts your pride to admit you know nothing, because the world has told you you're special, and therefore you don't need the path every other master has walked. And as long as you believe that lie, you will stay average, forever standing at the gate, watching mastery from a distance. The truth that burns. There is no shortcut, never was, never will be. Zen monks knew this 800 years ago. Samurai knew it 400 years ago, and every true master alive today still follows the same law. There is only one path, Shuhari. So here's what you must do. Not next week, not after inspiration strikes. Now. Step 1. Choose one skill, not 3, not fan. Just one. The one that, if mastered over the next 3 years, would change your life. Step 2. Find someone who has already mastered it. They don't need to be world famous, just 10 steps ahead of you. Follow them. Watch everything they do. If you can't meet them in person, learn online. But pick one teacher and commit. Step 3. Enter Shu with complete humility. Copy them exactly. No personalization. No my way. No shortcuts. Imitate perfectly, obsessively. Will it be dull? Yes. Will it bruise your ego? Absolutely. Will people call you robotic? Perfect. That means you're doing it right. Step 4. When your techniques flow without conscious thought, then move to Ha. Study other methods. Experiment. Adapt. Question the principles. Build your own rhythm, but only after you've mastered the beat. Step 5. Continue for years, not months. This isn't a quick phase, it's a transformation. Practice, refine, fail, rebuild, and repeat. Step 6. One day, without realizing it, you'll enter Re. You'll execute your craft without thinking. You'll create answers you've never seen before. You'll transcend technique and become the expression itself. And on that day, you'll realize something profound. The journey never truly ends. You'll return to the basics again, but this time with eyes that see everything differently. A researcher at Oxford University, who spent 25 years studying mastery across 500 experts in music, sports, programming, martial arts, and business, found something astonishing. Every world-class expert, without exception, followed the same 3-stage pattern. A phase of imitation lasting 1 to 3 years. Complete Shu. A phase of experimentation lasting 3 to 7 years. The stage of Ha. A phase of intuition and innovation. Re. The stage of mastery. Not a single prodigy or genius skipped the first step. The only difference among them was speed, never sequence. No one leaps to mastery. They walk, step by step, through boredom, through repetition, through doubt. Because in the end, mastery isn't talent. It's devotion. The kind that breaks your ego, reshapes your identity, and rebuilds you into something unstoppable. So choose your path, find your teacher, begin your Shu. And remember this truth. When your discipline starts to scare others, that's when you finally entered Re. Chapter 10. Yamato's Legacy. Yamato lived to be 87. During his lifetime, he trained hundreds of students, warriors, artisans, and thinkers, each seeking the same truth he had discovered. On his final day, surrounded by his most advanced disciples, one student asked softly, "Master, what was your greatest regret on your journey?" Yamato closed his eyes and thought for a long moment. Then, with a faint smile, he said, "My only regret was not beginning Shu sooner. I wasted a full year trying to teach myself, believing I was clever enough to find a better way. If I had started under a master from the very first day, I would have reached mastery a year earlier. And an extra year of mastery is a treasure no amount of gold can buy." He looked at each of his students, his voice steady and deliberate. "Don't repeat my mistake. If you truly want to master something, find someone who has already mastered it, and copy them without pride, without shame, and without the urge to add your own touch too soon. Mastery isn't about being original from day one. It's about becoming so deeply skilled that originality becomes unavoidable." Those were his final words on the path. 3 days later, Yamato passed away peacefully, content, knowing he had lived and taught the truth that had defined his life. The path, he said, never ends. It only transforms. Here's something very few people realize. You think Shuhari is about mastering a skill, but it's not. It's about mastering yourself. The person you are today, impatient, distracted, constantly jumping from one goal to another. That version of you will never reach mastery, because mastery demands the death of that restless self. But there's another version of you, a quieter, steadier one, waiting to emerge. The version that has the patience to copy perfectly, the humility to admit it knows nothing, the discipline to repeat the same movement 1,000 times, and the wisdom to understand that the long road is the only real shortcut. This version of you already exists. It's waiting for you to stop searching for quick fixes and to walk the ancient path that always works. Shuhari isn't just a Japanese system of learning. It's a mirror. And when you look into that mirror, it shows you exactly who you are and who you could become 5 years from now. Do you see someone willing to begin as a true beginner, without ego, without rushing? Or do you see someone still hunting for the hack, the shortcut, the way around the work? Because only one of those people will ever know mastery. And you already know which one it is. The question isn't whether Shuhari works. It's whether you are willing to pay the price that mastery demands. Yamato was just a village boy. No noble blood, no special talent, no advantage except a willingness to obey before questioning, to imitate before innovating, and to perfect the basics before seeking the advanced. That simple mindset transformed him from a nameless dreamer into a master whose teachings endured for centuries. And now the same choice stands before you. Do you want to spend the next 5 years searching for a shortcut that doesn't exist and end up exactly where you are today, knowing a little about many things but mastering none? Or will you pay the price, embrace repetition, and become extraordinary at what you choose? Mastery won't come looking for you. You must walk toward it, step by step, breath by breath, repetition by repetition. Shu, then Ha, then Ri. The path is ancient. The path is proven. The path works. If this video brought you a new understanding of learning and mastery, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss what's next. And tell me in the comments, what's one skill you will master through Shuhari? Write it below. I'd love to read it. Also, if you enjoy exploring the deeper sides of psychology and philosophy, I invite you to visit my new channel. The link is in the description. It's small for now, but every week I'm building it with the same dedication this path teaches. If you've watched this far, thank you. You're already among the few willing to truly learn, and that alone separates you from 99% of people. Now go begin. Enter Shu, and years from now, you'll look back and barely recognize the person you once were. Until the next video, walk your path with patience, and may your practice never break.